welcome to the Muscle Car Modeler. My name is Raul, and this week I'm going to feature a couple of builds of mine here. This is of Dodge's 1969 Super Bee 6-pack package, also highly referred to as the A12 package car. A few people have asked me if I built this one, especially since I'm building the Roadrunner equivalent of this. Coming off of a strong year of drag racing and performance from Mopar or Chrysler Corporation, when they offered their 68 package cars, the A990 drag race only cars, the Barracuda and the Darts, which they made like 120, 130 of those. It was like 70 Darts and 50 Barracudas. But those were not street legal. You technically could not buy that car and drag race it on the street or drive it on the street or register it. There were a couple of states that you were able to squeak them by. Legally, no, they were not supposed to be driven on the street, and they were not didn't have all of the safety equipment in them, so that was part of that particular deal. But they were quite the performers with Hemi engines and everything. But they came out with this package, and this was a mid-year introduction, introduced in February of 1969. So some people call these 69 and a halves, but and they were made in two batches, a batch in March and another batch in April. But when it came to the Dodge equivalent of the Super Bee, the main thing was the engine, the 440 6-pack engine. And they basically took the 440, which was not available in the Super Bee or the Roadrunner. They only came with 383s, and if you wanted to step up, you stepped up to the Hemi. The Hemi was not available in this package. When you ordered this package, it overrode a bunch of things. One of the things it did was you got the 440, which had special rods. They're kind of known as the 440 6-pack rods, but they're basically just Magnaflux and a little bit beefier. And then the other thing, they put the Edelbrock aluminum intake manifold on them, and 3 2-barrel carburetors. And when you weren't on it, it ran off the center carburetor with 350 CFM, and then the outer carburetors were 500 CFMs for a total of 1350 CFM. And you can wind them up good. And on the drag strip, they were pretty potent even against the Hemis. You know, in stock tune, right from Mopar, they would catch they would take off from the Hemis, but the Hemi could catch them at the end of the track. But these ones were specially prepped. Now, along with that 440 6-pack engine, which produced 390 horsepower and 490 foot-pounds of torque, you got your choice of automatic or manual. The automatic cost just a tad more, so in production, a lot more of the 4-speed cars were made, but not by much. And then they offered two body styles, the coupe and the hardtop. The hardtop sold a little bit better. I think it looks a little bit better. These are actually coupes with the pillar right here and the windows that do not roll down, which is how Monogram had molded it. With 1,907 of them produced, but most of them were hardtops. It was like 700 of them were coupes. More than half of them were manual transmissions, and all of them came with the Dana 60 rear end. So they came with that Dana 60, which is actually shown here. So Monogram got that right. Came with the Dana 60 with 410 rear end. And one thing, that option I thought was really strange when it came to these is no disc brakes. They all came with drums. Disc brakes were available on the Coronet RT and on the Coronet as an upgrade, but when you ordered the Super Bee, it came with strictly the drum brakes when you ordered the A12 package. Nobody really knows why. There's no reason stated why. It might be a dollar thing, but it was just not available. But you had big drums with a little over 3-inch wide on the front. So they did a good job stopping these. And they came with this fiberglass liftoff hood, 4 pins, no hinges, and the air grabber. Well, it's not even an air grabber, it's just a fiberglass liftoff hood. But you could not close this off. So whether or not, raining or whatever you were driving in, you couldn't close this off. Where the N96 air grabber hood with the scoops on each side, or ram charger hood as they were called on Dodges, you could close them off and protect your air cleaner and not worry about rain or snow getting in there. But on this one you couldn't do that. Plus, this hood being fiberglass, Some of them were known at high speeds they would actually flex up and stress crack could form. And all of them came with plain steel wheels. There were no wheel options from the factory, but there were 15-inch wheels, 15 by 6s, where the standard wheel was a 14, which is kind of what's shown on this one. Monogram gives you those wheels, and even in the latest releases come with that. But they came with plain steel wheels from the factory, and the idea there was you're going to take them off anyway, so why bother, but we'll make it as light as possible and get it down the track, because this is meant to race. And race they did. Now, not too many of the 4-speed cars survived with the original motors, because people would rev them to 7,000 and shift them at 7,000, and they would lose the motors. Where the automatic cars, the motors seemed to stand up a little bit better because of the tranny shifting for you. And some of the original brochures and paperwork on these said that they were only offered in 4 colors, but that later turned out to be not exactly true, as they added more colors, or they were built in other colors as well. So some of the literature just wasn't really clear on that. But when it comes to my builds here, this is my original build, and then this is a later build, but it's not too later, it's still pretty old. This one's like 15 years old or so, where that one's probably like 30 years old. So I'll put that aside and show you more of this one. Of course, you can tell looking right at it, it's right out of the box from Monogram. I didn't do anything. And this was the first issue, which I believe was 1983. The Metal Glow one, or it was still available in the late 80s with the Metal Glow plastic body and everything. But this body is actually painted, and you can see one of my boogers right on the side. I airbrushed this. Don't know what color blue this is, but it's a metallic blue that's real close to the original, and used a white decal stripe. The stock wheels, there's a glue mark here where I think I had glue on my finger and messed up the paint job, but I left it alone. All of the window trim is just silver paint. Decal's got some bubbles on it, whether they developed over time, or I don't think they sat very well, because I didn't have setting solution back then. But the paint job's actually pretty nice. The interior is completely brush painted, and same thing with the hood. The hood is brush painted. The black trim is all brush painted. So, and I think I clear coated this later, because some of these I took apart and I clear coated them later. So this is possible that I used a spray clear coat on there, because I think that's why the hood is semi-gloss black now. But I don't really remember, because I mean that's flat black, and that's like more of a gloss. So I think I gloss coated this whole car. Now whether or not it's on the chrome, because I may have torn it apart. But these are the wheels that Monogram gives you, and the tires. They're not correct for the car. They're cool, but they're not technically correct. And then one of the things that bugs me on this one, this B, if you look closely, it faces the back. It's not supposed to. The B's face forward on both sides. So on this side, it faces forward, and on the other side, it does not. And even Fred Cady decals and some of the other decals I've seen years ago when I was building the other one, they all had the same problem. Now I understand that the more recent reissues, because this kit's been reissued many times. This is a 1983 or an 80s issue molded in the Metal Glow blue metallic, which is I got another one right here that's molded in the blue, and you can see the swirl lines here. This is just another body basically, because I was going to redo this one, which is why the air cleaner is kind of missing. It's really the only thing that's missing, although all I'm really missing is the base. And here's the lid, which I actually popped it off a long time ago and put it in my Roadrunner package for that Roadrunner I started in 14. So that's where that's at. But my original intent was to redo this car and turn it into a Coronet RT and not a Super B. And it's got the Super B emblem right here, although there's no real detail and no decal there, and it's missing one on the back, which it should have. But I enjoyed building this one, and as these Monogram kits from back then, it's 1/24 scale. But this one's actually very nicely detailed. It has shocks, which not too many of them did. It's got the correct Dana 60 rear end in it. It's pretty accurate as far as all of it goes. And they did a really good job. And it's got one of the better engine compartments where it actually has the inner control arm detail on them. And a lot of the stuff is there. It's not fully detailed, but it's much nicer. And pretty decent interior. It's got bucket seats and the stick in it. But that's my build from way back then. So put that back on it. And then here's the more recent one. This one was primed and shot in yellow, which is a bit more accurate. And then these are resin wheels that I had actually gotten, but they were not the right size. So I had other wheels that I stripped, cut the centers out, and swapped the centers, and resin cast these. So the front ones have the dust cap, the grease cap, and then the rear ones do not. And then the tires have the red line painted on from the pens. And of course the 6-pack on there. But the stripe, there's the stripe there, which I don't remember if it was a kit decal or not, but I had the same problem, is the B faces backwards. So that's wrong. But I did add the B emblem back here, and then just cleaned up the detail and did a really good job, made these license plates. And then I added a B decal up here. Now I think those were on like another set of decals where I cut them off and stuck them on, which is funny because that's facing the right way where that's facing backwards. So these are facing the appropriate direction, and then I should have one more right here of this one, so it would be facing that direction. But like I mentioned, the later kits, I don't know about the newest issue. I haven't picked one up, but the issue before it, which I'll post up a box art of that, and the latest issue, I believe they fixed this finally. But even the aftermarket didn't do that. Now I didn't do anything to the interior on this thing. It's still the same bench seat interior, or bucket seat interior, and 4-speed, and it's pretty decently detailed. And this one's foiled, but it was before I was using the automotive clear coat. But still love this one. Just a few little tweaks and things I've done to it, but no real extra added detail. There's the 446-pack engine, which many don't realize. These cars all started as 383 cars. So the build sheets actually will say 383 on the original cars, and the VIN was an M code, not a V code. The V code 446-packs actually didn't start until 1970. And then here's the underside of the liftoff hood. No real detail done there, but just glued it on, cleaned it up, put the stickers on. And you know, for me, it's a fun kit. It's a simple kit. You know, these Monogram kits, you know, most of them are Monogram. You'll see later ones in Revell boxes, but the newest release says Monogram on it again. But you know, I've got another body to kind of restore. I got the body, and actually here's the interior, so you can see what the tub looks like. And it has bucket seats, but I only have a few parts. I don't know, you know, I bought a parts kit, or I stumbled upon some parts, so I've got a spare body, spare interior tub, some of the chrome, and some resin parts to do some other things to it, but and then an actual chrome sheet. So, but I resisted the urge to restore this one because it's such an early build for me, and it still presents very nicely. It's got some of my flaws and some issues, but a fun build. I loved building it. I have another one in my stash, so basically I have 3.5 of them. These two plus one unbuilt, and I've got some resin parts to turn one into a Coronet RT, and I'll probably show you those at another time whenever I get to building that particular project. But originally I was going to strip this and turn that one into the Coronet RT, and whether I was going to keep it a 440 car or switch it to a Hemi, I wasn't really sure. But I think that'll do it for tonight. But thank you for tuning in and subscribing, and all your comments. I really appreciate it, and all your shares. And you guys, you have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you next Saturday.